So on from that, 1909 Defence Act was notable for the system of military training. What was that system called, and who outlined it on a visit to New Zealand in 1910? Close. It was compulsory military training, and it was Field Marshal Lord Kitchener, and there he is inspecting the Otago Hussars on his visit. How did the name territorial come into being? Any takers? It's an easy one, somebody should know it. It was soldiers with regionally affiliated regiments, so Auckland, Wellington, Taranaki, Otago, Canterbury. Who did the British government offer in response to the New Zealand government's request for an imperial officer to introduce a system of compulsory military training? Easy one for you guys, come on. Here's the guy, Colonel Alexander Godley. He wasn't particularly keen on the idea. He had no money, so with the payment that he received from the New Zealand Army, it sort of made it worth his while. He wasn't a particularly popular appointment. What was the subsequent appointment on arriving in New Zealand? Wish we had some of our military people here. Major General, Commander of the New Zealand Expeditionary Force. Which other division did Godley's NZEF combine with to form a corps? Yep. That was the Aussies. And what was the name of the general that commanded this corps? So Godley went with his Australian counterpart. Who was the guy that commanded those? General Sir William R. Birdwood. Now, he was liked by the troops throughout the campaign. Unlike Godley, he talked to his men on a daily basis. So, what was the name given to the corps? That's right. Who was credited with the acronym? It was a Sergeant Little, a New Zealander serving with Birdwood's headquarters, and it was initially used for registering and sending on correspondence. Getting back to a Wellington theme, who was the commanding officer of the Wellington Infantry Battalion? That's right. Lieutenant Colonel William George Malone, a very good man. If you can read that, it says he had a saying, the art of warfare is the cultivation of domestic virtues. I've no idea what that means. So obviously living at home is like war. This is an interesting one. Malone instituted a style of headdress in his territorial battalion, the 11th Taranaki Rifles. They wore the brimmed felt hats with 4 distinctive dents, which later became known as what? Oh, well done. And obviously you'll know it's still in use today for ceremonial purposes. And so on what date, so we all know what day they landed at Anzac Cove. What was the day they left? The night and the day.
Tuesday.
Some 8 months, well, very close to 8 months. It was a dirty campaign. And when was Anzac Day first celebrated? So the next year, sports among the men of the Expeditionary Force. What was the total number of landings on the peninsula by New Zealanders? 14,000. Look how small it is, it's tiny. What was the total number of New Zealanders that served on the peninsula? That's right, 556. So that meant that many of them had 1, 2, sometimes 3 returns to that horrible piece of ground. What was the number of New Zealand casualties? 721. And just lastly, acknowledge Christopher Pugsley. A lot of my information I got from his book. So thank you.